They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him.
Every time LeBron does something, if Jordan wanted to, he would have done it.
I didn't say
if
that.
he's what you said he was.
Jordan was the first 40-year-old to drop 40. That's number one. LeBron James is in his 22nd season. That was the 78th time in his career he has scored over 40 seasons. How many 40-point games did Michael Jordan have? 173.
One man built a throne so high that even history had no choice but to bow, while the other is still standing on a wobbly ladder yelling to anyone who'll listen that he deserves a spot up there too. Stephen A. Smith just dropped a truth blast so sharp it could slice this whole argument in half. And if you've been stuck swimming in the same worn-out debates and recycled stats, what you're about to hear will finally hit you with some real clarity. This isn't about disrespecting greatness. It's about showing the gap between legends who earn their crown and players who spend years hustling for public approval. Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. People keep treating it like an endless war. But here's what most won't say out loud. This isn't a debate anymore. It's a full-on rescue mission, and LeBron's crew has been grinding non-stop trying to build a legacy the game itself never fully stamped as official. Every time he hits a milestone, there's a flashy announcement. Every new record comes with a headline, a hashtag, a whole rollout meant to stack his name next to Jordan's like they're trying to convince the world of something that should already be obvious if it were actually true. Meanwhile, Jordan never needed any of that. He wasn't begging for approval, wasn't chasing validation, wasn't sending his team to blast social media with reminders of his greatness. He just laced up, stepped on the court, dominated anybody who stood in front of him, and walked off twice, leaving the basketball world in straight-up shock both times. LeBron has spent his whole career sounding like he's running a never-ending campaign, and now the edges of that campaign are starting to crack wide open. Greatness that needs constant defending doesn't last forever. It starts slipping, fading, and getting harder to protect no matter how loud the arguments get. And the moment a mic gets put in front of him, Stephen A. Smith keeps circling back to the same point he's been stressing for years. Now he's dropped a lineup of quotes so sharp and so direct that they slice straight through the usual hype around LeBron's GOAT case. These aren't random shots. These are clean, focused statements that push through all the noise and force people to look at the uncomfortable reality. Jordan sits in a lane that nobody has been able to touch, while LeBron is still climbing, still reaching, still trying to close a distance that refuses to shrink, no matter how long he plays or how many points he puts up. And deep down, everybody watching knows that this gap isn't getting any smaller.
LeBron James, there's only one player we look at and we say definitively we think was better. And that was Michael Jordan. They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called themselves the greatest in anything but that man and his camp.
If you're ready for the real conversation, then tighten up and lock in, because we're about to dig straight into the truth with no sugarcoating. And forget all that smash the subscribe button stuff. We're going straight into the heat of it. The biggest issue in this whole debate, the thing that separates legends built on real dominance from ones built on hype, is self-proclamation. LeBron James and his circle have spent years pushing one storyline over and over, that he's the greatest of all time. They don't hint at it, don't lightly suggest it, they flat out declare it, loud and nonstop. That alone should make anybody pause, because in the entire history of the game, none of the true all-time greats ever walked around announcing their own crown. Not one. Michael Jordan never called himself the GOAT. Not a single time. He just stacked 6 championships, walked into 6 finals, walked out undefeated, and let that spotless record speak for him. Kobe Bryant, a man who lived the sport with an intensity that barely seemed human, never labeled himself the greatest either. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar held the scoring record for almost 40 years, with 6 MVPs and 6 rings, but he never needed to run around shouting for everybody to recognize him. Bill Russell won 11 championships, 11, and let those rings deliver every message for him. Tim Duncan grabbed 5 championships and 3 finals MVPs, but stayed quiet, humble, and perfectly content to let his game echo through time without saying a word. Meanwhile, LeBron couldn't wait. He crowned himself the greatest while his crew repeated it, and his media allies boosted it every chance they got. And whenever someone questions that claim, they react like they're being wronged, like the world is supposed to just bow down on the spot. that. But that's not confidence. That's pressure. That's insecurity. That's a scramble to control the narrative instead of letting the work speak. Real greatness never needs a PR team. It doesn't need talking points or crafted speeches. True greatness just exists. Bold, undeniable, untouchable, because the performance speaks louder than any slogan ever could. Look at Steph Curry. The man changed basketball forever with his shooting and shattered records that didn't even seem possible. People call him the greatest shooter ever, but Steph has never once given himself that title. He keeps firing those shots, stacking those numbers, and letting everybody else say it for him. Ray Allen, who held the three-point record before Steph, never bragged about being the greatest shooter either. These guys understood something simple. When you're truly the best at something, the world announces it for you. You don't have to force anything. That's the code LeBron broke. When he looked at history, saw the throne, and instead of earning universal recognition the natural way, he tried to grab it with sheer volume and force.
Anything that Michael Jordan wanted to do, he didn't spend the first 8 years shivering. He didn't have to go to South Beach to learn how to win.
His circle stood right behind him the whole way, pumping out think pieces, highlight clips, and hand-picked stats like a non-stop marketing machine, all to reshape a reality everybody can already see with their own eyes. They keep trying to remix the story, twist the angles, and push this idea that the crown is up for grabs, but the truth stays the same no matter how loud they get. Jordan is the blueprint, the measurement, the standard, always has been, always will be. And no wave of self-promotion, no media push, no carefully crafted narrative is ever going to rewrite that fact. Numbers don't lie when you're talking real dominance, and dropping 40 in a game shows who can take over the court and shut down opponents when the pressure is at its highest. Michael Jordan stacked 173 games with 40-plus points, and he did that in just 15 seasons. 2 of those seasons were comeback runs after stepping away from the game, and 2 more were with Washington when he was already past his prime, hooping on worn-out knees simply because he loved the sport that much. That means Jordan's pure peak, his real window of explosive control, lasted around 11 seasons, yet he still put up numbers that barely seem real today. Meanwhile, LeBron James, deep into his long career, just hit his 78th 40-point game. After 22 years in the league, he's still sitting far behind Jordan's total. LeBron has had 7 extra seasons, 7 full years of extra possessions, extra shots, extra chances to stack up those monster games, and he's still not even halfway to Jordan's mark. 7 more years of playing time, and he's still trailing by almost 100 games. That gap is wild, and it shows who really controlled the scoreboard when the moment called for greatness.
All I know is your man got 7 more years in the league and still chasing Jordan. 7 more years. He don't even have more rings. Been in the league long enough that I was in college. And still, he ain't catch Jordan.
And still get him there.
LeBron has stretched his career across multiple eras, taking full advantage of modern training tech, sports science, load management, and every comfort the NBA can offer. But even with all that, he still can't touch what Jordan did in a shorter, tougher stretch of time. Jordan didn't need 2 decades to show he was the alpha. He stepped into the league and started tearing it apart from day one. His 40-point nights weren't treated like national holidays. They were just another regular evening for him. Meanwhile, when LeBron hits 40, the whole internet turns into a fireworks show. Social feeds explode, hashtags start flying everywhere, and the hype machine kicks into overdrive. When every big game needs a giant spotlight just to keep a narrative alive, that tells you the performance alone isn't shouting loud enough. Jordan didn't need any of that noise. His game talked all by itself in an era where defense felt like straight-up combat. Hand-checking was legal, hard fouls were just part of the job, and nobody was getting protected. LeBron has played in a league where brushing a shooter's hand is a foul, and the whole system is built to boost offense. With all that working in his direction, he still sits behind Jordan. Real greatness doesn't wait years to show up, it steps in ready. Jordan walked into the NBA in 1984 and shook the whole building without needing time to develop or older stars to teach him what winning looked like. He joined Chicago when the franchise was struggling and flipped the whole city on its head. By season 3, he was putting up 37 a game, and by season 7, he had his first championship. Then came 6 rings in 8 years, straight dynasty mode. LeBron came into the league in 2003 with more hype than anybody, the chosen one, but spent 8 years trying to figure it out in Cleveland. He made 1 finals in 2007 and got swept with no pushback and no killer instinct showing up. After 8 seasons of trying and failing, he did something Jordan would have never done. He left. He bounced out of Cleveland and teamed up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami, finally learning how to win. But that's not greatness. That's tutoring. Jordan never ran from the challenge in Chicago. He didn't pack his bags to chase help. He carved his path through pressure and pain, standing on his own. LeBron needed a blueprint, a super team, and 2 other all-stars just to get over the mountain mountain, and even then it took him 2 years in Miami to grab that first ring. That difference matters because greatness isn't just about where you end up, it's about how you rise. Jordan came in ready from day one, while LeBron needed a whole decade to find his rhythm. Jordan was young too, and he didn't need excuses, patience, or timelines, just a court and a ball, and he'd go at anyone standing in front of him. Jordan set the model. LeBron is the result of that model. Jordan didn't just dominate in his prime, he beat back time itself. At 40 years old, playing for the Wizards on knees that had carried him through 2 separate three-peats, he became the first 40-year-old in league history to drop 40 in a game. That wasn't just a record, that was a straight-up message to time itself, proof that greatness lives inside you, not in cryotherapy chambers or recovery labs. LeBron fans love bringing up his longevity, and yeah, it's impressive, but he's had every modern booster possible. Cryo treatments, custom chefs, tailored workouts, top-tier recovery science. Jordan had none of that, yet he played in a league where players pushed through pain and still produced greatness at 40 that LeBron hasn't matched. When Jordan returned after his second retirement, he wasn't trying to prove a thing. He already had 6 rings in his pocket. He came back because he loved the game, and even in a beat-up body, he could still show the world what real greatness looked like. Dropping 40 at age 40 wasn't him chasing anything. It was a reminder that time couldn't erase what he was, and the one line that should end this entire argument is simple and hits deep. Stephen A. Smith said it clear. LeBron James has been in the league 7 more years than Michael Jordan, and he's still chasing the crown. Even with extra time, extra games, extra advantages, he still hasn't caught him. Not in dominance, not in finals perfection, not in cultural impact, none of it. Longevity is supposed to be the bonus on top of a legendary run. But for LeBron, longevity has become the whole argument. If the strongest thing anyone can say in a GOAT debate is, he played longer, then you're not talking about the greatest. You're talking about the most durable, and that's a totally different lane. Jordan took over the NBA in around 11 heavy-hitting seasons, rewrote history, grabbed 6 rings, stayed perfect in the finals, and turned basketball into something bigger than a sport. LeBron's had 22 years to match it, double the time, and he's still coming up short. If someone is truly greater, they shouldn't need twice the career to prove it. LeBron has spent 2 decades building a resume that's impressive, sure, but still feels unfinished. Something that always needs explaining, defending, debating. Meanwhile, Jordan's resume sits untouched, firm, undeniable, needing no backup crew. And LeBron hasn't just had more time. He's had more help than Jordan ever had access to. Miami's Big Three, Cleveland's return with Kyrie and Kevin Love, the Lakers with Anthony Davis. LeBron has jumped from one stacked situation to another, teaming up with star after star. Jordan stayed in Chicago, helped Scottie Pippen become a Hall of Famer, and dominated with a tight core. No shortcuts, no hopping, no switching when things got tough. And even with all those advantages, LeBron still trails. Stephen A. Smith dropped a line so sharp it sliced right through every excuse. Everybody already recognizes LeBron as one of the top 3 players in history. What more do you want? A diaper and a bib? And LeBron is great. Top 3 all time. Absolutely. But for some fans, that's not enough. They don't just want respect, they want a full-blown coronation. Every time LeBron hits a milestone, his camp jumps online, demanding the world declare him the greatest. When he passed Kareem's scoring record, it didn't just get celebrated, it got used like ammo, like a weapon, like final proof that he must be above Jordan. Every moment gets turned into a campaign ad, and the non-stop push for validation starts sounding more desperate than confident. Jordan's fans never had to jump online throwing tantrums because the respect came naturally. The work was too powerful to deny. When Jordan won his 6th title and stepped away, nobody argued, nobody questioned. It was just understood. LeBron's career, though, feels like one long PR mission where every highlight comes with a press statement and every achievement gets polished like branding material. And the harder his circle pushes, the more forced it all sounds. The real greats never campaigned. Magic Johnson changed basketball, won 5 rings, and never declared himself the greatest point guard. Larry Bird took over his era and stayed humble. Kareem had the most unstoppable move ever and didn't shout about being the best. Bill Russell won 11 championships and didn't need speeches. Kobe Bryant spent 20 years chasing Jordan's shadow and still had the respect to let others rank him. Every true all-time legend understood the unwritten rule. You don't declare yourself the best because the world declares it for you. LeBron shattered that code the moment he looked at the history books, saw the throne, and decided the rules didn't apply to him. And when the push wasn't enough, his camp doubled down and turned his legacy into a marketing rollout. The more they pushed, the hollower the message sounded. Because when all the greats before you stayed silent, and you're the only one yelling the claim, the truth becomes way too clear. Jordan's dominance became legendary because it came from insane performances, not PR teams. His legacy came from killer instinct. clutch moments, and a flawless finals record that still stands untouched. LeBron's legacy feels curated, like a documentary being filmed as he plays, where the image gets polished and the statements get rehearsed. And instead of feeling powerful, it starts feeling like someone trying too hard to control the narrative. Jordan let history write his story. LeBron is trying to write his story himself, page by page, tweet by tweet. And yes, LeBron James is the only all-time legend to ever declare himself the greatest of all time. That fact alone says everything, because if you have to say it, if you have to push it, if you have to chase it that hard, then deep down, it probably isn't true. Greatness doesn't campaign. It simply exists. Jordan's focus was sharp. Win, dominate, destroy the challenge in front of him, and he accomplished all of that without asking for validation. LeBron's focus has always been split, half basketball, half brand. And that divided attention shows in the legacy he's built. Huge, impressive, but still questioned. Jordan's legacy got stamped the moment he hit that 6th championship-winning shot and walked away. LeBron's legacy is still under construction, still shifting, still being debated, still needing debate shows to carry it. You can't crown yourself king if you never dominated the throne. LeBron has had every advantage imaginable. More years, more resources, more star teammates, better training, advanced recovery, a softer era, and even with all of that, he still can't match what Jordan did in a tighter, more brutal window. Jordan earned his crown through pressure, performance, and perfection. LeBron has tried to take it with volume, longevity, and marketing, and that difference shows every time the conversation comes up, because one legacy stands on its own forever, and the other needs a team of voices working overtime to keep the debate alive. This isn't hate, this is hierarchy, and at the very top of that hierarchy sits Michael Jordan. Untouchable, undeniable, immortal. LeBron James is legendary, top 3 without a doubt. But the throne, that belongs to Jordan, and no amount of self-proclaimed greatness is ever going to change that.